What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and this is your stimulus and infrastructure bill update as of today, November 17th, 2021. Now, we have an update for you on a lot of stuff coming from an interview from Pramila Jayapal, head of the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives, and she's going to be discussing the path forward with the stimulus reconciliation bill. Now, you'll recall, she's one of the ones that wanted to see a lot more stimulus. She wanted to see $6 trillion, $7 trillion. We heard as much as $10 trillion because she wanted to see reoccurring monthly stimulus checks. She also wanted to see unemployment extensions, all these provisions to go out to help people during the pandemic, none of which are currently in the stimulus reconciliation bill. Now, she compromised down to 3.5. Now we're down to somewhere between 1.75 to 2.1, and checks and unemployment are currently not included. Now, we're going to hear her discuss the negotiations that are taking place between her, progressives, Senator Joe Manchin, those moderates, and what's going to be unfolding here. And there's a major concern, as you saw in my previous video, on those CBO scores, those moderate centrist Democrats want to make sure this isn't going to be adding to the inflation issues that we currently have. And we heard this from Senator Joe Manchin, who she's going to be discussing in this clip, who said that he was very concerned about this impacting inflation, despite the fact that we had heard President Joe Biden say that this was totally paid for with all the taxes and the payoffs in it. And now we're hearing the CBO score might be revealing something different. Now, also, we're going to be hearing her discuss the arrival times, when they're likely going to be voting for this in the House of Representatives. Also, when this likely will completely pass into law and be signed by President Joe Biden. She's going to be giving all the details on this. We're going to dive right in. I'm going to play this for you so that way you can hear it directly from here and you can see it for yourself. But you guys, also, if you missed my previous videos earlier today and a couple days ago, you might want to check them out, as we're also hearing stimulus checks. There are a lot of states that still have stimulus provisions left over from the last stimulus package, and they're passing their own state stimulus packages and sending out stimulus checks. So be sure to check that out right after this one, you guys. But let's go ahead and dive right in. But first, also just wanted to say thank you so much for all the support on the second channel, Steve Ram Finance. I'm looking forward to launching that here very soon. And if you're interested in growing wealth and learning about personal finance, consider joining. I will pin a comment down below. Click the link, go to the channel, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. And when we launch, I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really awesome, you guys. But let's go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up on this interview. And before we do, though, don't forget, do me a quick favor, smash the like button if you appreciate the updates. Helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much. Leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here, come stay up to date on economic news by hitting the subscribe button, turning on the notification bell. And if you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and dive right in and get you caught up on the latest on this interview from Pramila Jayapal on the delivery of stimulus reconciliation.
President Biden hit the road today to promote the Eisenhower-style infrastructure overhaul he signed into law yesterday, kicking off an administration-wide blitz to sell the benefits to the American people. Biden's message today, speaking from an aging bridge in New Hampshire deemed structurally deficient, was pretty straightforward. Results are on the way.
Clean water, access to the internet, rebuilding bridges, and everything in this bill matters to individual lives of real people. This is not something abstract. New Hampshire and America are moving again. Your life is going to change for the better, and that's literal.
And he's right. There are things in this infrastructure law that affect and impact all Americans. Money for roads and bridges, clean water, and clean energy. While President Biden is out communicating how that part of his agenda will benefit you, and it will, Democrats in Congress now have the challenge of making sure the other part of his agenda, the Build Back Better bill with new social spending to benefit the environment and children and women and families and people of color, that part doesn't get thrown by the wayside. The House is on pace for a vote later this week on the Build Back Better bill after separating it to get the infrastructure plan through with a handful of Republicans and moderate Democrats. An updated Congressional Budget Office score to ensure it's paid for, a demand of those House moderates, is expected on Friday. For her part, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told members they will not leave Washington for the Thanksgiving recess without getting Build Back Better over the finish line. But one of the risks when House Democrats separated these two bills is that one would get left behind. So now the challenge is to make sure that doesn't happen. Joining me now is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington State, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. It's always great to have you on the show, Congresswoman. And I want to start by acknowledging the scope and scale of this bill that passed is a big deal. I mean, it is. Lawrence O'Donnell was pointing out the other night that there is no other president that has a trillion-dollar infrastructure bill investing in infrastructure in this country ever, including Eisenhower. This is a huge deal. And so I want to acknowledge that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. But you and I have talked about before that the risks of taking that monumental, important thing, and which is going to, really benefit people, and cleaving off the parts that help the women and the people of color and the environment and the young people, cleaving that off, is that big thing becomes the only thing left. And so I wonder, as the person who you did oppose separating them, how hopeful are you that this second half is going to get also to be a big effing deal?
Yeah, Joy, it's so great to see you. And you laid it out, as you always do. And let me just start by saying the infrastructure bill really is a big deal. Trump said for 4 years that he was going to get infrastructure done. He never got infrastructure done.
Yeah.
President Biden has gotten infrastructure done, and it is a big deal. It's like for me, it's money to restore the Puget Sound. It's getting lead out of our, getting clean water and getting our lead pipes replaced. It's our bridges that are crumbling. It's so many important things. Public transit. It's $380 million, by the way, for my state for public transit. So there's a lot in there. Now, we didn't want to separate them because we didn't want to leave anybody behind. 85% of the president's agenda is in the Build Back Better Act. But Joy, because the Progressive Caucus stood up and said we're not leaving anybody behind, we went from having no Build Back Better Act, no negotiation, no text, no nothing, to now having a vote in the House this week. It will be this week. It'll be before Friday. Because that was the agreement we made and the commitment we got. And then we have the president's word that he is confident he can get 51 votes in the Senate. I heard him say today he's hoping that can happen very quickly. I see no reason why it can't move in the Senate within a week or two of us sending it over to the Senate. So hopefully, Joy, we will have a very big, fat Christmas present that is about universal childcare, universal pre-K, the biggest investment in housing. You and I have talked about how that's a racial justice issue. One of the things that's escaped under the radar that I wanted to bring up for you is that within the climate change provisions, the Progressive Caucus prioritized what we call EJ 40, Environmental Justice 40, meaning 40% of all of the outlays for climate should go to the most disproportionately affected. And the set-asides in Build Back Better that we were able to get are really fantastic for folks of color, indigenous people across this country, poor people across this country. So we are not only taking on climate change, but we are doing it with the values that are about centering those who have been disproportionately affected. So we'll have that vote this week, Joy. That's what we negotiated. And I'm just so proud of the Progressive Caucus for never letting this go and not leaving anybody behind.
And I want to talk about that for a minute because, people like Cori Bush and AOC, they're getting like the crap kicked out of them on social media, which isn't the real world. But, it's got to hurt because these are the people, they've been on this show articulating why they've been taking this really firm stand. And let me just play Cori Bush because she's explaining why she has taken the stand that she's taken. She was on TV earlier today. Let's play that.
Being fiscally responsible also has to start with how you save lives, and so that is the work. And so I'm just urging all of our colleagues to look at this and see what's in these bills and decide humanity over profits, humanity over property of corporations, humanity over your own ambition.
And just really quick, I want to play Senator Joe Manchin. This is why there's a lack of trust, I think, among some progressive members of your caucus, because she's saying this is all about humanity. We've got to think about humanity, not profit. Here's Joe Manchin, the guy y'all got to win over in the Senate. Here he is.
Senator, do you believe the argument that this is PBT is going to lower inflation?
Thank you.
Thanks. Do you buy that argument?
I really haven't heard any specifics on that one. They say it's going to lower?
They say it's going to lower inflation.
I'll have to check on that one. I really don't know.
And you add to that the fact that much of what's in the big infrastructure bill is going to be administered by the states. So if you're in Oklahoma or Kansas or you're in, South Carolina, do you really believe that these Republican governors are going to distribute the benefits of the infrastructure bill in a way that's going to help people of color? Come on now. So I think that's the problem, right? Is there's a lot of having to trust the states, and you've got this man bill that's going to employ a lot of mainly men, and then you've got the bill for the women, the women and the people of color that's like left to the side. So do you have trust? Yes, you trust the president. Yes, you're putting your trust in him. But do you trust the Joe Manchins of the world and the Kirsten Sinemas of the world to do their share?
Well, look, I do, and it's not a blind trust, right? Like, this is something that was essentially largely pre-conferenced, this Build Back Better Act. That's why we had to accept a cut from the top line number that we originally had. But what we did is we were still able to get every single Progressive Caucus priority into the Build Back Better Act, not as strong as we would have liked had we had more votes in the Senate, more votes in the House. We have very slim margins. We need Joe Manchin. We need Kristen Sinema. We need all the progressives. We need everybody. That's just the reality of where we are. And what the president did was he negotiated with Senator Sinema, with Senator Manchin. I've spoken with both of them. I believe that the vast majority of this bill is pre-conferenced and that Joe Manchin will come along, Kirsten Sinema will come along, because we need to deliver this. It is the president's agenda. It's the Democratic agenda. And most importantly, it is about humanity. It is about helping people to get what every other country in the world has on many of these things. And it's about delivering on climate change, right? We just came back from COP26. We said the United States is committed to reducing carbon emissions, to being a leader in climate. This is the bill, Joy. Not the infrastructure bill. This is the bill that delivers on climate. So I think that I do feel very good about where we are. I can't say that that would have been the case 6 weeks ago had we not held the line. But what we got was we did get the infrastructure bill passed, and we got the commitment that we would get this vote in the House this week, and then it would quickly go to the Senate. So, look, I just think we have to continue to deliver for people. And we're not leaving anybody behind. And I think that's what the Progressive Caucus has been able to do. That's what you've been highlighting on your show. These are jobs that are going to women, to folks of color. They are good. People talk about the infrastructure bill as a jobs bill, and it is. Mm-hmm. It creates a lot of good union jobs. So does Build Back Better. In fact, more jobs and more living wage jobs for caregivers, for people of color, for poor people across this country. And really investments in things that are going to pay off for the long term.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, as I mentioned before we watched the video, she gave out the schedule and delivery times of what she's expecting. However, we're going to be seeing what unfolds with that CBO score, because if it comes back saying that this is not fully paid for, we might see if more negotiations need to take place. But we heard her say they're expecting this Friday. Now, we will see, and like I said, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date here on the channel. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. And if you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, take a quick second, smash the like button, helps me out a ton. Leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you like to stay up to date, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Consider joining the second channel, Steve Ram Finance, if you're interested in learning about growing wealth and personal finance. And if you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3. But with that being said, you guys, hope this reaches you well. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.